I invited them because I still believed family could be fixed. But they came only to drag me back into the place I spent my whole youth escaping from. They ruined my speech, embarrassed me in front of my colleagues, and then called me selfish because I didn't wait for them to miss another flight. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I just thought enough. And for the first time in my life, I walked away without turning back. My name is Caleb Bennett, and I've spent most of my life trying not to take up too much space. Funny how even now I still do it without thinking. There's a photo I've kept since I was 8. It's tucked in the drawer of my desk just under the folders marked urgent and someday. It's the only childhood memory I've chosen to carry. It's of me and my brothers Ryan and Lucas on a camping trip. Ryan, the oldest, has that I'm in charge smirk and stands right in the center. Lucas, all dramatic flair even at 10, is holding a stick like a microphone caught mid-dance. And me, I'm off to the side, half blocked by their shoulders, smiling, kind of. The kind of smile you wear when you know no one's really looking. I remember asking Mom once why I looked so hidden in the picture. She laughed and said, "You're the youngest, sweetie. Be good, don't bother." It became a family phrase, like a slogan, like a muzzle. I was 9 when I won my first writing contest. Regional big deal at school. I came home practically floating. That night at dinner, Mom passed the peas and told us Ryan had made it through another week of group therapy. Dad added, "We're so proud of how hard he's working to reintegrate." No one mentioned my win. I left the certificate on the kitchen counter. It disappeared the next day. A few years later, I got an article published in a national youth magazine. It was a huge moment for me, my name in print in bold font. That same evening, Dad waved around a scratchy MP3 of Lucas's first song. Our Little Artist, he called him. Nobody said a word about my article. I learned not to expect recognition. I learned to clap for others louder than I ever clapped for myself. Because I was the easy one, the one who didn't make trouble, the one who handled things, the emotional airbag. Now at 28, I have my own apartment, a career in media strategy, and an invitation to speak at one of the biggest conferences in Denver. And still, I looked at that photo tonight, still hoping, I guess. I thought maybe I could invite them, Ryan and Lucas. Maybe this trip could be something different. Maybe they'd see me now, not just the youngest, not the fixer, but someone they could stand beside, not in front of. The cursor blinked at the top of the blank email draft, subject line Denver Conference. Want to come? I hovered over the send button, and for a second I thought I could feel that photo breathing behind me. They say milestones change you. I say they reveal who people already decided you are. The email came at 10:13 a.m. on a Tuesday. I almost called in sick. Subject line, Keynote Confirmation, Denver Media Summit 2025. I reread the message 5 times, not because I didn't believe it, but because no one else ever would. I was being flown out, all expenses paid, to speak at the biggest communications summit in the region. And not just speak. They were giving me an award. Me, Caleb Bennett. The kid who used to write press releases for his high school band just so they could feel famous. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. I should have felt proud, triumphant even. But the first thought I had was, what if Ryan and Lucas saw this? Would they finally believe I'd made it? It wasn't just about the award. It wasn't even about proving anything. At least that's what I told myself. The truth was more complicated. I'd spent years building a career in silence. No fanfare, no family dinners celebrating milestones. Just me chasing contracts and carving spaces I was never invited into. But this conference, this was public. This was undeniable. I imagined introducing Lucas to the creative directors at DTX, the media company I'd consulted for last quarter. Their design department needed someone who understood chaos and originality. Lucas was both in the most maddening way. As for Ryan, I'd heard from an old contact that Apex Logistics was looking to expand their team, the very same company sponsoring the event's operations division. Ryan was great at control. Logistics was all about control. I figured maybe he just needed the right stage. Maybe this trip could be more than a speech, I thought. Maybe it could be a new start for all of us. I spent an hour drafting the email. Subject: Denver, March 22 to 25, big opportunities. Soon, hey, I've been invited to speak at the Denver Media Summit this year. It's kind of a big deal. They're flying me out and everything. I'll be getting an award, too. I thought it might be cool if you guys came with. Could be a change of pace. I'm not covering costs, but I've attached my itinerary and hotel info. We could book the same flight, stay at the same place. I've also arranged for you two to meet some people. Lucas DTX is hiring creatives. Ryan Apex Logistics is expanding. No pressure. Just felt like the right moment. Caleb. Before I hit send, I pulled out the photo again. The camping trip. The crooked smiles, my half-shadowed face. I held it between my fingers like a test strip of hope. Maybe I whispered they'll finally see me. I hit send. 2 hours later, Lucas replied first. Yo, congrats, lil bro. You finally famous, huh? Sounds fun. I'll check tickets when I get paid, LOL. Short, casual. But it wasn't a no. Then Ryan didn't expect that. Denver, huh? Let me look into it. Might be worth the networking. That was Ryan code for I want to come, but won't act like I care. I knew the language. I'd been translating it all my life. That night, I opened a new Google Doc packing list. Denver. I booked my flight. March 22nd, early morning departure. I forwarded the confirmation along with a polite reminder. Seats are selling out quick, might want to lock yours in soon. I imagined us at the airport together. Ryan with his carry-on briefcase, Lucas probably lugging a duffel bag full of unwashed hoodies. But still together. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't just leaving for a trip. I was taking something with me. Possibility. I couldn't sleep that night. Not because I was anxious, but because hope is louder than fear when it finally has space to breathe. It rattled in my chest like a secret I wasn't ready to say out loud. This wasn't just a conference. It was a test. A question I'd been too afraid to ask for years. Would they show up? If it wasn't about them, that was the real keynote. And I was about to find out who would be in the front row. I arrived at the airport 2 hours early. I always do. Order calms me. Gates, boarding groups, the polite certainty of a departure time. It's one of the few places in life where things are supposed to run by schedule, and I like the idea that for once someone else keeps the clock. I texted the group chat at gate 32B. Security line is short. See you both soon. No response. 35 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Lucas, shit, bro. Just woke up. What terminal? No apology, no panic, just Lucas being Lucas. I stared at the screen thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could already see him arriving in some paint-splattered hoodie smelling like last night. I typed Southwest, Terminal 2. You'll have to run. Then came Ryan. Not him exactly, his voice. It echoed from a few rows behind me. Are you kidding me? That's absurd. Do you know who processes your budget? I turned. Ryan stood at the TSA checkpoint, arms crossed, face twisted in that familiar scowl. A young agent held up his ID. Expired. I stood half walking toward them, torn between intervention and invisibility. I heard the agent say, "Sir, You'll need a secondary form. And Ryan snapped. This is government dysfunction at its finest. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I stepped in gently. Hey, Rye, everything okay? He looked at me like I'd interrupted something sacred. Then, catching himself, he sighed. Apparently, my ID expired last month. No one tells you these things. Pretty sure the card tells you, I muttered before I could stop myself. He didn't laugh. They let him through after extra screening and some stern words. As we walked toward the gate, I stayed quiet. Ryan didn't. They make everything harder than it needs to be. Bureaucracy, idiocy. He pulled out his phone and began typing furiously. I caught a glimpse, a message thread. Top name Leah. The newest message still unread. Don't bring the family drama with you. Please. I looked away before I could process it, but something inside tightened. Don't bring the family drama with you. How many times had she seen it? How many trips had Ryan ruined with his need to dominate space? Lucas showed up 5 minutes before boarding, panting, hoodie, half-zipped, earbuds in. He looked like he hadn't slept or had just woken from a dream he didn't want to leave. I made it. He grinned like that erased everything. Barely, I said, forcing a smile. He dropped into the seat beside me and yawned. Flight full. Pretty much, I replied. I had us all set for row 18. Window middle aisle. Ryan took the aisle, Lucas the window. I sat between them. We didn't speak much during takeoff, but I watched the clouds shift outside and the quiet inside me start to fray. In that silence, I kept hearing Leah's message. Not just the words, but the implication. Ryan carried chaos with him. Lucas too. And I kept inviting it in. Why? Because I still believed that maybe one day we'd all arrive on time. Together. On the same flight, same page, same version of our childhood. But sitting between them now, one checking his crypto portfolio and the other watching TikToks on mute. I felt like the only one pretending this trip was about reconnection. When we landed, Ryan immediately started walking ahead, scanning for luggage carts. Lucas wandered toward the wrong baggage claim until I called him back. This way, Lucas. Oh, right. We waited. I counted rotations of the belt. Ryan muttered about delays. Lucas asked if Denver had any good weed shops. I checked my phone. No new messages, no "Thanks for the invite, bro." Just a blinking cursor on the document I'd started on the plane, talking points. Acceptance speech. I added a line and hit save. Some flights arrive late, others never take off at all. I've worked rooms like this before, soft jazz humming behind clinking glasses, half smiles hiding full intentions. The welcome reception at the Denver Media Summit was hosted in a downtown rooftop lounge, sleek and curated. All the right lighting, all the wrong timing. I walked in first, alone. Lucas had texted, "We'll be a bit late. Gotta change." This place got dress code. Ryan didn't text at all. I mingled with old contacts from DTX, Apex, Velt Media. Everyone was pleasant, polished, the kind of people who remembered your LinkedIn headline but forgot your coffee order. Still, I played my part. Then I saw them enter. Ryan in his usual sport coat, except it was wrinkled and his eyes already had that glassy flicker I recognized from our uncle's second wedding. Lucas wore what could only be described as electro nightclub grunge. Black leather pants, neon mesh top, a chain around his neck that looked like it belonged to a bike lock. I blinked, swallowed, smiled. More. Lucas beelined for the bar. Ryan slid beside me, sniffed. "You look nervous." I just didn't expect. I glanced at his coat. Well, I guess I didn't expect anything. You should have warned us this was some rich people vibe, he said, and downed something dark from a silver flask. Can't stand overpriced drinks. TSA took mine, but I brought backup. He tapped the inner pocket of his blazer with a grin. I didn't laugh. Lucas rejoined with 2 bright cocktails, one for himself, one for a woman he'd just met. She turned out to be Andrea Salas, a strategy editor at Velt Media. I was scheduled to sit with her team tomorrow morning. As Lucas handed her the glass, he gestured too wide, his elbow caught her hand, and crimson liquid splashed across her cream-colored dress. Shit, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Lucas stammered, dabbing napkins uselessly. Andrea, to her credit, smiled tightly. It's fine. It's dry cleanable. But I saw her eyes, calculating, judging, and I saw the moment something small in her closed. I rushed over, offering a fresh napkin, then steered Lucas away. You can't flail around like that here. Relax, he whispered. It's a party. No, it's a room full of decision makers, exactly. So let them see I'm bold. Bold! He was a splash of chaos in a room full of clean lines. 15 minutes later, one of the Apex directors approached me at the buffet. Hey, Bennett. He nodded toward Ryan and Lucas, who were laughing too loud in the corner. Those the guys you mentioned? I froze. Yeah. He hesitated, then leaned in. Listen, I admire loyalty, but are they ready for this world that cut deeper than I expected? I forced a smile. They're talented. Just out of their element. Fair enough. Just tread carefully, man. Your name's hot right now. I didn't eat anything. I excused myself and went to the balcony, trying to breathe. Inside, Ryan was now gesturing with his flask like it was a trophy. Lucas had cornered a junior producer, probably pitching his new concept album. The room was moving on without me, or worse, with me dragging shadows behind. A woman from DTX passed by and said warmly, "You looked stressed, Caleb. Big night." I nodded. She tilted her head toward the door. Sometimes it's okay to bring family. Just make sure you're not offering them the only key to the room. That stayed with me. Back at the hotel, Lucas plopped onto the couch in our sweet shirt, half off, laughing about networking gone wrong. Ryan poured the last of his flask into a coffee mug and muttered something about TSA being fascists. I didn't say much, but in my notebook I scribbled, "You can't open doors for people still determined to kick them in." There's a specific kind of silence you feel right before stepping onto a stage. It's not the absence of sound. It's the anticipation of being watched, like 100 invisible spotlights all warming up, waiting to land on your skin. The ballroom was full, rows of chairs stretched neatly into the back, filled with rising stars and seasoned executives. Camera crews were stationed by the sides, the podium gleaming under a halo of light. I stood backstage waiting to be introduced. My hands were steady. My pulse wasn't. But my eyes kept glancing at the front row. 2 seats on the aisle, marked with their names, still empty. 30 minutes earlier, I had sent a final reminder. Speech starts at 10 sharp. They'll close doors by 9:50. Let me know if you're running late. Lucas didn't reply. Ryan read the message. No response. I had even arranged their name tags personally. I thought maybe they'd see them, feel something. Belonging maybe, or pride, or just responsibility. But the seats stayed empty, and I had to walk out anyway. The applause was loud. I smiled, professional, controlled. As I stepped to the podium, the first thing I saw wasn't the crowd. It was the 2 chairs, still empty, still waiting, and suddenly every version of my younger self stood up inside me at once. The boy who cleaned up the dinner table while his brothers argued. The teen who stayed home while they figured things out. The man who thought maybe, just maybe, they'd show up this time. I started speaking. Good morning, I'm Caleb Bennett. I work in communication, but I grew up with silence. There was a pause in the room, just long enough for breath. In a house full of voices louder than mine, I learned how to listen. I learned how to fix things without being asked. And I learned that sometimes the loudest people aren't saying much at all. I saw someone in the second row shift. A woman scribbled a note. A man nodded slowly. I kept going. Today isn't just about media, it's about meaning, and to me, meaning comes from showing up. Not perfectly, but fully. I looked again at the empty chairs, still untouched. I swallowed. Growing up, my mom used to say, "You're the youngest Caleb, you have to keep the peace." Laughter rippled gently through the crowd, but I didn't smile. So I tried. I held space for conflict. I made excuses for absence. I negotiated between explosions. And for years, I believed peace was something I could carry for other people. Then I looked down at my notes. I crossed out the last paragraph, looked up again. But I've learned that peace is not about keeping things quiet. Peace is about knowing what's worth holding on to, and when to let go. Applause followed me off stage. Cameras clicked. I shook hands, accepted compliments. People asked for my contact info. Someone offered a podcast slot. Another mentioned a panel in New York. But none of it sank in. Not really. Because the two chairs stayed empty. And I felt like a fool for ever thinking they'd be filled. Back in the green room, I sat by myself, sipping lukewarm coffee. One of the organizers walked in, smiling brightly. "Caleb, that was stunning. Authentic. Honest. You're getting amazing buzz." "Thank you," I said. "By the way, we left those reserved seats open just in case." I nodded. She hesitated. "Were they important people?" I looked at her. "They were supposed to be." That night I lay in bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. I thought of Mom's voice again. "You're the youngest. You need to keep the family together." But tonight another voice whispered back, one that had been waiting a long time to speak. "You've been keeping something alive that never belonged to you. Not love, not unity, just an illusion of both." The morning after my speech, I woke up early, clear-headed. Today was the real opportunity, the quieter kind. A private lunch with the VP of programming from Apex and a potential introduction to a design lead from a European agency. 2 seats at the table. I had RSVP'd for 3. I texted the group chat at 8:42 a.m. lunch meeting at 11:30. Business casual. They asked if you're coming. No reply. I waited. I showered. I revised my talking points. At 10:03 a.m., Lucas finally responded. "We're skipping lunch. Booked tickets to the music museum." My phone buzzed again before I could react. "Ryan, we figured this was our only day to chill. You can handle the suits." I stared at the screen, not surprised, not angry, just hollow. I called Lucas. He answered on the third ring wind in the background. "Hey, what's up? I was hoping you'd come today. I wanted to introduce you to someone from a creative agency. They're hiring designers." Lucas laughed. Not kindly. "You mean the same type of agency that ignored my portfolio 3 years ago?" "That wasn't them. And I didn't ignore it. You passed it along and it got rejected. Same difference." I stood silent for a second. "I'm trying again." "Isn't that worth something?" His voice dropped. Quieter, but colder. "You know I once asked you for help, real help. A seed fund. 10K. You told me it wasn't the right time because you didn't have a business plan. You had a napkin sketch. Still, I needed a brother, not a board member. The call ended without goodbye. Ryan found me in the lobby 10 minutes later, sipping hotel coffee like it was punishment. You look tense. You ditched me. We didn't ditch. We declined. He popped a vitamin into his mouth like that made it noble. They were expecting all three of us. He shrugged. Maybe don't set expectations too high. That's your real problem. I stared at him. He leaned in slightly, voice just above casual. Mom says you get lucky with these things. That's why they like you. Polished. Predictable. I didn't answer. He kept going. You think this little conference is some redemption arc? It's a networking pit stop, Caleb. You're not changing the world, just changing rooms, and yet I invited you into one. And you skipped it. Because it's your room, he said, and smiled like it proved something. See, lunch was quiet. The partners were generous, curious, and kind. I smiled, I engaged, I made notes, I dropped Lucas's name briefly. But there was no spark, no story to sell. Because he wasn't there. Afterward, the VP patted my shoulder. You've got potential, Caleb. Big picture mind. One thing, though, don't carry people. Introduce them when they're ready, not when you're hopeful. That one landed hard. Back in the hotel room that evening, I found a note from Lucas on hotel stationery written in Sharpie. Museum was dope. Bought a CD. Don't worry, didn't cost $10K. And beneath it in different handwriting, Mom says we should all have dinner tomorrow night. You and Ryan? I didn't write back. Instead, I looked out the window. City lights blinking. Cars moving in every direction, each person headed somewhere, choosing their own detour. I'd always assumed helping meant bringing people along, but now for the first time I saw it clearly. Not everyone wants to be saved. Some just want you to keep the boat steady while they jump off. I checked out of the hotel alone. The cab arrived on time, the bellhop nodded politely, and for once there was no one to chase down. No voices trailing behind me, no apologies to the concierge. I had messaged them both the night before. Van leaves at 4:00 a.m. sharp. Security lines are long. Please don't be late. At 4:00 a.m., I waited in the hotel lobby. By 4:10, I had texted, I'm heading down. I'll hold the shuttle 5 more minutes. At 4:15, I was in the van. Alone. At 4:30, while inching through TSA security, a message popped up from Lucas running late. Can you ask them to hold the gate? I didn't reply. Cuck. By 5:20 a.m. boarding began. I was seated by the window watching the sun crack open the morning over Denver's flat skyline. Then came the buzz. A video message from Lucas. I hesitated before opening it. He was outside somewhere, blurry dark, maybe a sidewalk. His hoodie half off his shoulder, face flushed, voice slurred. You're on that plane, aren't you? You made it. You always do, but guess what, Caleb? You don't have anybody. You keep climbing and smiling and talking like some fucking saint. But you're just gonna land in a city with no one waiting for you. Then a laugh. Ragged. Hurt. You can have your success, you can have your speeches, but you lost us, remember that. He ended with a shaky middle finger before the screen blacked out. And right then, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even save the video. I sat up straighter, fastened my seatbelt, and whispered, helping isn't dragging people. It's stepping back and letting them walk. When the plane took off, I didn't look out the window. I looked forward. I thought about the number of years I had spent trying to be the glue, the number of nights I had delayed my own decisions waiting for theirs, the number of dreams I'd resized to make room for everyone else. Maybe this was what growing up really meant, letting the gate close behind you and not asking for it to reopen. I put my phone on airplane mode and let it all go. The plane landed smoothly, tires hissing against the wet runway. I had barely switched off airplane mode when my phone exploded with notifications. The screen blinked like a warning siren. First came Ryan. "You serious, Caleb? You left your own brothers at the damn hotel. You abandoned us." Like we were nothing. "Real nice, Mr. Big Shot." Then Lucas. "We didn't know what to do. You could have helped us fix it. I was just tired." "Why'd you go without saying anything?" The words blurred in my vision, not because I was crying, but because I had read these tones before. Different words, same guilt, and then voicemail. From Mom. I hesitated, then played it. Her voice was quiet, deliberate, like she had rehearsed it. "Caleb, sweetheart, I heard what happened. You know your brothers are going through things. You're the youngest. You've always been the calm one, the peacemaker. Please don't hold this against them. Sometimes you just have to give more, especially when you're the strong one." Click. She always called me the strong one when she needed me to absorb more than anyone else would tolerate. I didn't respond right away. I didn't want to lash out. I didn't want to scream into the void, so I sat at the gate in silence. Then I opened my notes app, typed one sentence, read it back 3 times, copied it into the family group chat, and hit send. I'm not the youngest. I'm just the only one who decided to grow up. No emojis, no qualifiers, no apology, just the truth. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. For years, I had clung to this unspoken role, the glue, the anchor, the emotional custodian of a family that rarely offered return. But now clarity came not as a scream, but as a release. Let them feel what they feel. Let them say what they say. Let the blame fall wherever it must. I had caught my flight. They had missed theirs. That wasn't betrayal. That was boundaries. The air around the dinner table felt heavier than usual, like someone had turned down the oxygen, but turned up the tension. The lights were warm, the plates were full, but the silence was unbearable. Clinking forks became the only soundtrack. No one spoke, not even small talk. Mom had made her famous rosemary chicken. Dad poured wine like it could patch holes in conversation. Ryan sat across from me, chewing mechanically, not looking up. Lucas toyed with his food, pushing green beans in slow spirals. Mom glanced between us every few seconds, hoping someone would break first, so I did. I laid my fork down slow and quiet, looked at each face. "I want to talk," I said. No one interrupted, but the stillness got tighter, like the whole room was holding its breath. "I know Denver didn't go the way anyone planned," I continued, "but I need to say something, not as the youngest, not as the one who always smooths things over. Just as me." Ryan's jaw tensed. Lucas looked down. Mom reached for her glass. "Caleb, honey, this isn't the time to pick apart who did what. In a family, there's no right or wrong. We're just different." I smiled sadly. "Exactly. That's the problem." I looked her in the eye. When there's no right or wrong, no one ever has to change. The room went even quieter. Ryan yelling at TSA. Lucas drunk texting me at dawn, missing my speech, making a mess at the welcome dinner. "You think those are just differences?" Dad spoke up, hesitant. "They were just overwhelmed. You know they've had rough years." "I had rough years too," I said calmly. "I just didn't make them other people's problem." Lucas whispered, "We didn't mean to ruin things." I nodded. "Maybe not. But you did. And when I left, you blamed me, not yourselves." Ryan crossed his arms. "So what, Caleb? You're the perfect one now?" "No," I said. "I'm just tired of pretending being quiet equals peace." I turned back to Mom. "You've always told me to be the glue, to let things go. That family matters more than feelings, but glue can crack. And when it does, it cuts. She blinked, her mouth slightly open. Dinner smells great, Mom, I added, softening, but I'm not hungry anymore. I stood, not storming out, just stepping away. Lucas called after me. Caleb, wait. I paused. He stood up slowly, voice low. We acted like kids, but we're not. I turned to him. You're not, I agreed. You've just never been asked to be anything else. The office was quieter than usual that Friday morning. The hum of distant conversations, the soft ping of coffee machines, the click of keys, all familiar, all forgettable. I had just wrapped up my morning meeting when Evelyn, my senior colleague and mentor, peeked into my office. Got a minute? She asked. Always. She stepped in, holding a small aged envelope in her hand. It was yellowed at the edges, sealed but worn, like something carried too long in a wallet or the corner of a drawer. I've been thinking about our talk, about your brothers. She began, sitting across from me, and it made me think of mine. I waited. I haven't spoken to my sister in almost 20 years, she said, voice surprisingly steady. We had one of those break-the-family kind of fights. She left. I stayed. We never recovered. She handed me the envelope. She wrote this a month after we stopped talking. Mailed it to my apartment. I never opened it. Until last year. I looked at her, unsure if I should open it. She nodded. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper. Neat handwriting, slightly slapped. If you had truly loved me, you would have realized love isn't control or correction or guilt. It's space. It's trust. It's respect. I spent so long waiting for you to approve of who I became. But the truth is, I should have stopped waiting. You weren't my finish line, just a boundary I should have walked past. I love you, but I'm done waiting to be seen. Silence filled the room, not awkward, just sacred. Evelyn cleared her throat. I kept thinking love meant holding on. She knew better. She let me go even when I didn't deserve the grace. I exhaled slowly. That line. About walking past the boundary? She nodded. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is close the door. Not out of hate, but because staying is what's hurting you. I leaned back. All my life I had believed fixing meant staying. That love meant carrying more. That if I could just hold everything long enough, they'd catch up. But they hadn't. And maybe they weren't supposed to. I looked out the window. Cars passed. People walked with coffee earbuds, routines. The world moved. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel stuck. Evelyn stood. I just thought you might need to read what I couldn't say. Don't wait 20 years to choose peace. I gave her a nod, gentle, thankful. She left. I sat there a little longer. Then quietly I smiled. I arrived at the airport 2 hours early. No one to chase. No luggage drama. Just me, a carry-on, and a book I probably wouldn't read. I grabbed a black coffee and found a quiet corner by the window. The view was nothing special, just concrete blinking lights and the shimmer of heat rising from the runway. But to me it looked like freedom. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the old messages. Most of them were still unread. I could feel the weight of every word, Ryan's outrage, Lucas's guilt-laced voice notes, Mom's subtle manipulations, but instead of answering, I archived them all. One by one, swipe, archive, silence. The overhead speaker crackled. My flight was boarding. As I stood and stretched, I noticed a girl no older than 10 sitting on the bench beside mine. Her hair was in messy braids, her backpack half open. She looked around, panicked. My ticket. I dropped it, she muttered to no one. I crouched and pointed. Is that it under your seat? She looked at me, eyes wide, then nodded. She scrambled to grab it. As she held it to her chest, I smiled. You'll be fine. You're gonna get on your flight just fine. She looked down, still unsure. "Trust me," I added. "Sometimes the most important thing you'll ever do is get on the plane alone." She gave a small nod. I turned and walked toward my gate. As I handed my ticket to the agent, something shifted inside me. Not a sharp pain, not even regret, just release. The kind that comes when you finally stop trying to rewrite people, when you stop begging love to look a certain way. As I walked down the jet bridge, I whispered to myself, "This is my flight." I didn't need them to see me. I didn't need to be understood. I just needed to go. The plane took off into a quiet golden sky. I looked out the window not for nostalgia but for clarity, and for the first time in my life I wasn't hoping they'd catch up. I was finally okay with flying ahead, not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but because. Finally, I understood love isn't always staying. Sometimes it's knowing when to walk away. I didn't leave to punish them. I left because I could no longer keep myself small to make space for their chaos. The silence after that trip was deafening but strangely peaceful. No missed calls, no guilt-laced voicemails, just space I never had before. One morning, I stood by my kitchen window, coffee in hand, and watched the light seep through the blinds like a slow confession. That's when the message came. Not from my brothers, not from my mother, but from within me. You cannot lead someone out of the dark if they are still afraid of the light. I had tried. I had bent backwards in every direction, made myself a bridge, a buffer, a second chance in human form. I invited them not just to a trip, but into a version of life they didn't want to step into. And when they rejected it, they didn't just ruin the moment, they revealed the truth. Some people don't want help. They want a witness to their self-destruction. And when you stop watching, they call you selfish. But I'm not selfish. I'm just done pretending. I didn't respond to the old texts anymore. I stopped explaining myself to people who only listened to accuse. Instead, I began to listen to me. I revisited the childhood photo one last time. The one with me, the youngest, half blocked by their careless joy. I used to look at that image and wonder what was wrong with me. But not anymore. Now I looked and whispered, you never needed them to see you. You just needed you. And I saw me. I saw the boy who kept the peace when no one asked how he was doing. I saw the young man who worked twice as hard just to earn half the attention. I saw the adult who carried a family that never chose to carry him back, and still, I loved them. But from here, from this distance, from this place of quiet self-respect. That gate didn't close because someone slammed it. It closed because I walked through it and didn't look back. I journaled one final sentence beneath a date I would remember. The moment I chose peace over proving my worth was the moment I came home to myself. And that was enough. That was the end. Not of love, but of sacrificing myself in its name.